I thought loyalty ran in the blood. I thought family meant something sacred, something you could count on when the world turned its back on you. I was wrong, dead wrong. And the person who taught me that lesson was the one I raised with my own two hands, the one I sacrificed everything for, the one I trusted more than I trusted myself. My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm 67 years old, and for most of my life, I believed in doing the right thing. I worked 2 jobs to put my daughter Nicole through college. I scrubbed floors at the hospital during the day and cleaned office buildings at night. My knees gave out before I turned 50, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. Nicole was my purpose, my pride, my reason to keep going when every bone in my body screamed for rest. She graduated with honors, became a paralegal, married a decent man named Marcus, and gave me 2 beautiful grandchildren. I thought I had won. I thought all those years of struggle had paid off. I was a fool. It started small. So small I didn't even notice it at first. Little things. Nicole would stop by my house more often than usual, always with a smile, always with a hug, always asking how I was doing. At first, I thought she was just being a good daughter. Maybe she missed me. Maybe she finally understood how much I had given up for her. I welcomed her visits. I made her favorite sweet potato pie. We'd sit on the porch, sipping iced tea, talking about her kids, her job, her life. Everything seemed perfect. But then came the questions. Subtle at first, casual. "Mom, you still keep your savings in that old credit union?" she'd ask, her voice light, almost careless. I'd nod, not thinking much of it. "You know they don't have the best interest rates, right? You should move it to a better account. I can help you with that." I brushed it off. I'd been banking there for 40 years. I trusted them. I didn't need to change anything. She kept pushing, not aggressively, just persistently, like water wearing down stone. "Mom, you're getting older. What if something happens to you? What if you have a medical emergency and can't access your money? You should add me to your accounts, just as a safety measure, just in case." I hesitated. Something in my gut twisted, but I ignored it. She was my daughter, my blood. Why wouldn't I trust her? So I did it. I added her name to my savings account. She hugged me tight that day, told me I was doing the right thing, told me she'd take care of me. And I believed her. God help me, I believed her. The first time money disappeared, I thought I had made a mistake. I went to the ATM to withdraw some cash for groceries, and the balance on the screen made me blink twice. It was lower than I remembered. Not by much, just a few $100s. I stood there in the parking lot, staring at that receipt, trying to remember if I had paid a bill I forgot about. Maybe I had written a check and lost track of it. My memory wasn't what it used to be. I convinced myself it was my fault, but it happened again and again. Every time I checked my account, the number got smaller. 1,000 here, 1,500 there. I started keeping a notebook, writing down every transaction, every withdrawal, every deposit. I became obsessed with it. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning, my heart pounding, convinced I was losing my mind. Was I forgetting things? Was I slipping into some kind of dementia? The thought terrified me. Nicole noticed. Of course she did. "Mom, you seem stressed," she said one afternoon, her voice dripping with concern. "Are you okay? Are you keeping track of your bills?" I told her about the money. Her face shifted, just for a second, a flicker of something I couldn't name. Then she smiled, soft and reassuring. "Mom, don't worry. Sometimes banks make errors. I'll look into it for you. I have access to the account now, remember? I'll fix it." I let her. I handed over control because I was tired, because I was scared, because I didn't want to believe what my gut was screaming at me. "She's stealing from you. She's taking your money. She's betraying you." Weeks passed. The withdrawals didn't stop. They got bigger. 2,000, 3,000. I confronted her again, this time with my notebook in hand, every transaction highlighted in yellow. "Nicole, something's not right. The bank says these withdrawals were authorized, but I didn't authorize them. Did you?" She looked at me like I had slapped her. Her eyes filled with tears, actual tears. "Mom, how could you even ask me that? I'm trying to help you. I've been paying some of your bills because you kept forgetting. I've been taking care of things because you asked me to. And now you're accusing me of stealing?" Her voice cracked. She turned away, wiping her eyes. "Maybe you need to see a doctor. Maybe this is more serious than we thought." That word, doctor, it hung in the air like a noose. She was planting the seed. She was making me doubt myself. She was gaslighting me, and I didn't even know the term for it back then. All I knew was that I felt crazy. I felt like the problem. I apologized. I apologized to my own daughter for questioning her. I held her hand and told her I was sorry, that I was just confused, that I didn't mean to hurt her. She smiled, kissed my forehead, told me she forgave me. And then she took more. I started hiding cash, small amounts at first, $20 or $30 tucked into a coffee can in the back of my pantry. I didn't tell anyone. Not Nicole, not Marcus, not my best friend Dorothy from church. I kept it to myself because I didn't trust my own judgment anymore. If I was wrong, if I was imagining things, I didn't want to ruin my relationship with my daughter. But if I was right, if she was really stealing from me, then I needed proof, real proof, something undeniable. That's when I found the credit card statements. They came in the mail one Tuesday afternoon, addressed to me but for an account I didn't remember opening. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the envelope, my hands trembling. I opened it slowly, like it might explode. Inside was a bill for over $12,000. Charges for designer handbags, spa treatments, a weekend trip to Miami, dinners at expensive restaurants. None of it was mine, but all of it was in my name. I called the credit card company. The woman on the other end was polite but firm. Yes, Mrs. Vance, this account was opened 6 months ago. Yes, you are the primary cardholder. Yes, there is an authorized user on the account, Nicole Vance Turner, my daughter. The room spun. I sat there with the phone pressed to my ear, listening to the woman explain payment options and interest rates, but I couldn't hear her. All I could hear was the roar of my own heartbeat, the rush of blood pounding in my skull. My daughter had opened a credit card in my name. She had spent $12,000 of money I didn't have. She had buried me in debt while smiling to my face, while hugging me, while calling me Mom. I hung up without saying another word. I sat in that kitchen for hours, staring at the wall, trying to make sense of it, trying to understand how the little girl I had rocked to sleep, the teenager I had fought for, the woman I had sacrificed everything for, could do this to me. How could she look me in the eye and lie so effortlessly? How could she cry fake tears and make me feel like the villain? That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing, my chest tight with a grief so heavy I thought it might crush me. This wasn't just theft. This was betrayal. This was my own flesh and blood bleeding me dry and making me feel insane for noticing. And the worst part? I still wanted to believe I was wrong. The next morning, I called Dorothy. She was the only person I could trust, the only one who wouldn't judge me or make me feel like I was losing my mind. We'd been friends since our daughters were in elementary school together, survived divorces, funerals, and more church potlucks than I could count. If anyone would believe me, it was her. We met at the diner on 5th Street, the one with the cracked red booths and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting since yesterday. I didn't care. I needed to talk. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. Dorothy took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. What happened, Eleanor? I told her everything. The missing money, the credit card, Nicole's tears, the way she made me doubt myself. Dorothy's expression hardened with each word. When I finished, she didn't hesitate. That girl is robbing you blind, and she's doing it with a smile on her face. You need to confront her. Now. But I couldn't. Not yet. Because confronting her meant accepting the truth, and accepting the truth meant losing my daughter. So instead, I did what any desperate mother would do. I started watching her. Not obviously, not like some detective in a movie, just paying attention, noticing things I had ignored before, like the new car she was driving, a sleek silver Mercedes with leather seats and a sunroof. When I asked her about it, she waved it off. Oh, Marcus got a promotion. We're doing better now. But Marcus worked construction. Good money, sure, but Mercedes money? I didn't think so. I smiled and nodded, but the doubt was growing, spreading like a stain I couldn't scrub out. Then there were the clothes, designer labels I recognized from commercials, handbags that cost more than my monthly rent. She'd show up wearing them casually, like they were nothing, like she hadn't just drained my savings to pay for them. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake her until the truth fell out, but I didn't. I just kept smiling, kept pretending, kept dying inside a little more each day. I decided to check my other accounts. I had a small retirement fund, something I'd been contributing to for years. It wasn't much, maybe $20,000, but it was supposed to be untouchable. My safety net, my security. I called the investment company, hands shaking as I dialed. The representative pulled up my account and went silent for too long. "Mrs. Vance," he said carefully, "it looks like there was a full withdrawal last month. The funds were transferred to an external account." My throat closed. "I didn't authorize that. According to our records, you did. The request was made online using your login credentials." He paused. "Is there a possibility someone else has access to your account information?" Nicole. It was always Nicole. She had helped me set up the online access months ago. She had written down my passwords for me, told me she'd keep them safe. I had trusted her. Again. I hung up and sat there, staring at my hands. $20,000. Gone. My entire retirement. The money I had planned to use if I ever got sick, if I ever needed care, if I ever had an emergency. She had taken it all. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a voice whispered the question I had been avoiding. What else has she taken that I don't even know about yet? That afternoon, I went to see a lawyer. Not because I wanted to sue my daughter, not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed to know where I stood, what my options were. The lawyer was a young woman named Keisha, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense. She listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and sighed. "Mrs. Vance, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. What your daughter is doing is financial elder abuse. It's a crime, but proving it can be complicated, especially since you gave her access to your accounts willingly. The courts will ask why you didn't revoke that access once you suspected something was wrong." I didn't want to believe it, I whispered. "She's my daughter." Keisha's expression softened. "I understand, but you need to protect yourself. First thing, remove her from all your accounts immediately. Then we gather evidence, bank statements, credit card bills, anything that shows unauthorized transactions. If we can prove she acted without your knowledge or consent, we might have a case." I left her office feeling hollow. This was really happening. I was building a case against my own child, the little girl who used to climb into my lap and beg me to read her favorite storybook, the teenager who cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend broke her heart, the woman who stood beside me at her father's funeral and promised we'd always have each other. How did we get here? That night, I went through my filing cabinet, pulling out every piece of paper I could find. Bank statements going back 2 years, bills, receipts. I spread them across my dining room table like evidence at a crime scene, and that's exactly what it was, a crime scene. My life had become a crime scene, and the criminal was someone I loved more than my own life. The more I looked, the worse it got. Withdrawals I didn't remember, checks written to cash, transfers to accounts I couldn't identify. She had been stealing from me for at least 18 months, maybe longer, slowly, methodically, like a parasite feeding off its host, careful not to kill it too quickly. I found receipts too, tucked into envelopes, folded into bills. A receipt for a vacation rental in the Bahamas, another for a diamond bracelet, one for a down payment on something called investment property. She wasn't just spending my money, she was building a life with it, a life I couldn't afford to give her honestly, so she took it anyway. My phone rang. Nicole. I stared at her name on the screen, my finger hovering over the answer button. I couldn't talk to her. Not now. Not while I was surrounded by evidence of her betrayal. But if I didn't answer, she'd get suspicious. She'd know something was wrong. So I took a breath, steadied my voice, and answered. "Hey, Mom." Her voice was bright, cheerful, like she didn't have a care in the world. "Just checking in on you. You doing okay?" "I'm fine," I lied. Good. Listen, I was thinking maybe we could go to lunch this weekend, just you and me. What do you say?" Lunch. She wanted to take me to lunch, probably with my own money. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her I knew. I wanted to demand she give it all back, apologize, get on her knees and beg for forgiveness. But I didn't, because I wasn't ready yet. I needed more proof. I needed to be sure. "That sounds nice," I said. "Let's do that." We set a time and place, and she hung up, satisfied. I sat there holding my phone, feeling like I had just made a deal with the devil. What was I doing? Why was I playing along? Because somewhere deep down, I still hoped I was wrong. I still hoped there was an explanation. I still hoped my daughter wasn't the monster the evidence said she was. The next morning, I went to the bank. I asked to speak to a manager, a woman named Patricia with gray hair and kind eyes. I told her I needed to remove Nicole from my accounts. Patricia nodded, typing on her computer, but then she frowned. Mrs. Vance, I'm showing that there's already been some unusual activity on your account. Several large withdrawals over the past few months. Were you aware of these? No, I said quietly. I wasn't. Patricia's frown deepened. I'm going to recommend we freeze your account temporarily while we investigate. If there's been unauthorized access, we need to protect your remaining funds. Remaining funds. The words hit me like a slap. I had started with over $40,000 in that account. Now I was down to less than $8,000. She had taken $32,000. $32,000. And I had no idea where it went. Patricia printed out a detailed transaction history and slid it across the desk. I scanned the pages, my vision blurring with tears. Withdrawal after withdrawal after withdrawal. Some made at ATMs I'd never been to. Others transferred online to accounts I didn't recognize. Nicole had drained me dry, and she had done it so smoothly, so carefully, that I hadn't noticed until it was almost too late. I left the bank in a daze. I drove home on autopilot, my mind numb, my body moving through the motions because it didn't know what else to do. When I walked through my front door, I saw my house differently. The couch I'd saved for months to buy. The TV Nicole had convinced me to upgrade last year, insisting I deserved something nice. Had I even paid for that TV? Or had she used my credit card and called it a gift? Everything felt tainted now. Every object, every memory, every moment we had shared. How much of it was real? How much of it was just her setting me up for the next theft? I called Dorothy again. This time I was crying. I can't do this, I sobbed. I can't lose her. She's all I have. Eleanor, Dorothy said firmly. She's not all you have. You have yourself. You have your dignity. You have your life. And she's trying to take all of that from you. You need to fight back. But how do you fight back against your own child? How do you wage war on someone you brought into this world? It felt like betrayal, like I was the bad guy for defending myself. That weekend, we met for lunch. Nicole showed up late, wearing a new dress I didn't recognize and sunglasses that probably cost more than my electric bill. She hugged me, kissed my cheek, and slid into the booth across from me like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't stolen $40,000 from her own mother. We ordered food. We made small talk. She told me about the kids, about Marcus's job, about a vacation they were planning. The whole time, I watched her, studied her, tried to see the lie behind her smile, and I found it. It was there in the way she avoided my eyes when she talked about money, the way her voice got just a little too bright when I asked how she could afford so much lately, the way she deflected every question with a joke or a subject change. Halfway through the meal, I couldn't take it anymore. I put down my fork and looked at her, really looked at her. Nicole, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Her smile faltered, just for a second. Of course, Mom. What is it? Did you take money from my retirement account? The silence was deafening. She stared at me, her face carefully blank. Then she laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that didn't reach her eyes. Are we really doing this again? Mom, I told you. I've been helping you manage your money. You asked me to. I didn't ask you to empty my accounts. You're confused, she said, her voice cooling. You keep forgetting things. That's why I'm handling your finances now. To protect you. Protect me? I felt something snap inside me. You took everything, my savings, my retirement. You opened credit cards in my name and maxed them out. That's not protection, Nicole. That's theft. Her eyes hardened. The mask finally dropped. You don't know what you're talking about. I went to the bank, I said quietly. I have the records. I have proof. She went very still. Then she stood up, grabbed her purse, and leaned down close to my ear. You're making a mistake, Mom. A big mistake. If you keep pushing this, you're going to lose more than money. You're going to lose me. You're going to lose your grandchildren. Is that what you want? She walked out without paying. I sat there alone, staring at her half-eaten salad, my hands shaking so hard I had to grip the table to steady them. She had just threatened me. My own daughter had looked me in the eye and threatened to take away my grandchildren if I dared hold her accountable. That's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't confusion or misunderstanding. This was calculated. This was deliberate. My daughter was a thief, a liar, and a manipulator, and she wasn't going to stop unless I made her. I paid the bill with what little cash I had left and walked out into the bright afternoon sun. My phone buzzed. A text from Nicole. "I'm sorry you're going through this, Mom. Maybe it's time we looked into memory care facilities. I'll help you find a good one." Memory care. She was going to have me declared incompetent. She was going to lock me away and take everything I had left. I stood there in that parking lot, reading that text over and over, and something inside me shifted. The fear disappeared. The doubt vanished. All that was left was rage, pure, burning, righteous rage. She thought she had won. She thought I was too old, too weak, too confused to fight back. But she didn't know who she was dealing with. I had survived poverty, abuse, and loss. I had raised a child on my own with nothing but grit and determination. I had built a life from scraps, and I was about to remind her exactly who I was. I didn't waste another second. That same afternoon, I marched back to Keisha's office with my folder of evidence and that threatening text message. She read it, her jaw tightening, and nodded. "This changes everything. She just made a tactical error. Threatening you in writing, suggesting you need to be institutionalized. This shows intent. We can use this." Within 2 days, Keisha had filed a police report for financial elder abuse and identity theft. We also filed for an emergency restraining order to keep Nicole away from me and my finances. The police took my statement, photographed my documents, and opened an investigation. For the first time in months, I felt like someone believed me. Someone saw through Nicole's perfect smile and saw the predator underneath. The restraining order was granted. An officer showed up at Nicole's house to serve her the papers. I wasn't there, but Dorothy's niece lived on the same street and saw the whole thing. She said Nicole screamed at the officer, called him every name in the book, insisted it was all a misunderstanding, that her mother was senile and didn't know what she was doing. The officer didn't care. He handed her the papers and told her to stay away from me or she'd be arrested. That night, my phone exploded. 15 missed calls, 20 text messages, all from Nicole. I didn't answer. I didn't read them. Keisha had told me not to engage, not to give her any ammunition to claim I was harassing her, or that this was all some mutual misunderstanding. So I blocked her number and sat in my living room in the silence I had been too afraid to embrace before. Marcus called the next day. His voice was quiet, strained. "Miss Eleanor, I need to talk to you. Can I come by?" I hesitated. Marcus had always been kind to me, but he was Nicole's husband. Whose side was he on? Still, something in his tone made me agree. He showed up an hour later, looking like he hadn't slept. He sat on my couch, his head in his hands, and said the words I never expected to hear. "I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know what she was doing to you." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe someone in that house had a conscience. "How could you not know?" I asked. "The cars, the trips, the spending, where did you think it was all coming from?" He looked up at me, his eyes red. "She told me she'd gotten an inheritance from her aunt, said it was a surprise, that she wanted to treat us. I believed her because I wanted to believe her. I didn't ask questions because I was tired of struggling, tired of working 70-hour weeks and barely keeping the lights on. I'm not proud of it, but I took the easy way out. Her aunt's been dead for 20 years, I said flatly. Marcus's face crumbled. "I know that now. When the police came, when I saw the restraining order, I confronted her. She tried to lie at first, but I pushed. I demanded to see bank statements, credit card bills, everything. That's when it all came out. She admitted she'd been taking money from you. She said you owed her, that you'd promised her an inheritance, and she was just taking what was hers early." I laughed. A cold, hollow sound. I never promised her anything. Everything I had was supposed to go to her after I died, not while I was still alive and struggling to pay my bills. Marcus nodded slowly. "She's not the woman I thought I married. I'm filing for divorce. I'm taking the kids. I'm not letting them grow up thinking this is okay, that you can steal from family and call it love." I didn't know whether to thank him or cry. In the end, I just nodded. "Take care of those babies. They didn't ask for any of this." He left, and I sat alone again, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not quite peace, not quite victory, but something close. Vindication. Someone else had seen the truth. Someone else had chosen to walk away from her lies. The investigation moved quickly. The bank had cooperated fully, handing over transaction records that showed Nicole had systematically drained my accounts over 18 months. The credit card companies provided evidence that she had opened accounts in my name using my personal information, which she had access to because I trusted her. The district attorney's office decided to press charges: financial exploitation of an elderly person, identity theft, fraud. Each charge carried years in prison. Nicole hired a lawyer, an expensive one, probably paid for with my money. He tried to argue that I had given her permission, that I had asked her to help manage my affairs because of my declining mental state. But Keisha was ready. She brought in my doctor, who testified that I was completely competent, that I had no signs of dementia or cognitive decline. She brought in Dorothy, who testified about my distress, about how I had discovered the theft, about Nicole's manipulation. She brought in Marcus, who admitted what Nicole had confessed to him. The trial lasted 3 days. I sat in that courtroom, watching my daughter lie under oath, watching her cry fake tears, watching her paint herself as the victim of a confused old woman. But the jury saw through it. They had the evidence. They had the testimony. They had the text message where she threatened to have me institutionalized. They found her guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing was 2 weeks later. The judge, a black woman in her 50s with steel in her eyes, looked at Nicole and said something I'll never forget. "You didn't just steal money from your mother. You stole her trust. You stole her sense of safety. You tried to steal her sanity by making her believe she was losing her mind. There is a special cruelty in what you did, and this court will not tolerate it." She sentenced Nicole to 5 years in prison and ordered her to pay full restitution. Every penny she had taken, plus interest, plus legal fees. It would take her decades to pay it back, if she ever did. But it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the principle. It was about making sure she understood that actions have consequences, even when the victim is your own mother. Nicole was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs. She looked back at me once, her face twisted with rage. Not remorse, not shame, just rage. That's how I knew I had made the right choice. A guilty person apologizes. A sociopath blames everyone else. I walked out of that courthouse into the bright spring sunshine, and Dorothy was waiting for me on the steps. She wrapped her arms around me, and I finally let myself cry. Not tears of sadness, but tears of release. I had fought back. I had won. Not just in court, but in reclaiming myself. The weeks that followed were strange, quiet. I had to rebuild my finances from scratch, but the restitution order meant I would eventually get my money back, even if it took years. More importantly, I had to rebuild my sense of self. For so long, I had defined myself as Nicole's mother. Now I had to figure out who Eleanor Vance was without that identity. I started small. I joined a seniors book club at the library. I volunteered at a community garden. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected because Nicole always needed something, always demanded my time, always made me feel guilty for having a life outside of her. I discovered I actually liked being alone. I liked the quiet. I liked not having to second-guess every decision, not having to wonder if I was being manipulated. Marcus brought the kids by once after Nicole was sentenced. They were confused, angry, grieving the mother they thought they knew. I didn't badmouth her to them. I just held them and told them I loved them, that none of this was their fault, that they could come see me whenever they wanted. They deserved to have one stable, honest adult in their lives. One evening, about 6 months after the trial, I was sitting on my porch watching the sunset when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mom!" Nicole's voice, thin, hollow, calling from prison. I should have hung up. I should have kept the boundary I had worked so hard to establish, but I didn't. I listened. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know you don't believe me, but I am. I didn't realize what I was doing to you. I was so focused on what I wanted, on what I thought I deserved, that I stopped seeing you as a person. I just saw you as a resource. That's the first honest thing you've said to me in years," I replied. There was a long silence. Then she said, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to ever trust me again. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what I did, and I'm ashamed." I sat there, listening to the cicadas hum in the trees, feeling the weight of her words. Part of me wanted to believe her. Part of me wanted to reach through the phone and hug the little girl she used to be. But I couldn't. That little girl was gone, replaced by a woman who had hurt me in ways I was still healing from. "I hope you find peace, Nicole," I said finally. I really do, but you need to find it on your own. I can't give it to you. I don't have anything left to give you. I hung up before she could respond, and this time I didn't cry. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt free. Dorothy came over that night with a bottle of wine and a box of cookies from the bakery we both loved. We sat on my porch, not talking much, just being. After a while, she said, "You did good, Eleanor. You stood up for yourself. Not everyone has that kind of strength." I didn't feel strong, I admitted. I felt terrified. That's what makes it strength, she said. Doing the right thing even when you're scared to death. I thought about that. About all the moments I had wanted to give up, to pretend it wasn't happening, to protect Nicole even as she destroyed me. About how I had pushed through the fear, the doubt, the guilt, and chosen myself for the first time in my life. A year later, I'm still here, still standing, still healing. The money's slowly coming back through the restitution payments, but honestly, I don't care as much about that as I thought I would. What matters is that I have my dignity back, my autonomy, my peace of mind. I see my grandchildren regularly. Marcus has been good about that, making sure they understand that I'm not the villain in this story. They're in therapy, learning to process what their mother did, learning that love doesn't mean blind loyalty. They're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. Sometimes people ask me if I regret turning in my own daughter, if I wish I had handled it differently, kept it quiet, protected the family reputation. I tell them the truth. I don't regret a single thing, because if I had stayed silent, if I had let her continue, she would have taken everything. My money, my home, my sanity, my life. And then what? She would have moved on to her next victim, probably her own children, teaching them that exploitation is love and boundaries are betrayal. I stopped that cycle. I broke it. And if that makes me a bad mother in some people's eyes, so be it. I'd rather be a bad mother than a dead one. Some betrayals don't destroy you. They strip away everything false and leave only what's real. They burn down the life you thought you had and force you to build something truer in its place. Nicole didn't break me. She revealed me. She showed me I was stronger than I ever knew, braver than I ever imagined, more resilient than I ever believed. And now, at 67 years old, I'm finally living for myself, not for my daughter, not for anyone's approval, just for me. That's not a tragedy. That's a triumph. If you're out there reading this, wondering if you should speak up about the family member who's hurting you, wondering if it's worth the fight, wondering if you're strong enough to stand alone, I'm telling you, you are. You are worth defending. Your peace is worth protecting. And anyone who tells you otherwise is trying to keep you small so they can keep taking from you. Don't let them. Stand up, speak up, fight back, because some betrayals don't destroy you. They rebuild you.